I don't know, I would say maybe 30s, 40s.
Okay, but she's more, I hate to say middle-aged, but she's a little more middle-aged, right?
Yeah.
Don't tell her I said that, right?
Okay.
Okay, well, I mean, I think, these facts are very, very interesting. Were you at the center with the group? How did you end up in the vehicle with them?
Well, I was actually supposed to go with my mom, who left at 3 o'clock in her van. We were going to sing at this meeting that was in John Day. All the guys were going to talk to the ranchers and the sheriffs, and my family was going to sing. So my mom and 7 siblings left at 3 o'clock in their van, but I was running behind because I had been doing some other stuff, so I wasn't ready when I was.
You see, you weren't ready. You see what happened to you by not being ready? You're a singer. You're a singer. Do you play any instrument, or are you just a singer?
No, I play violin.
You play violin. Do you play violin with the group when you sing?
Yes. I play violin and I would sing. And I was actually not supposed to go with these guys, but I'm really glad that I did, because now I'm a witness, and otherwise there would only be one witness that has gotten her story out, and that would be Shauna. But now there's 2 that can witness to what happened in that vehicle. And I remember when I was in the van afterwards, I sat in front of Brian Payne, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm sorry that you ever went through this. They should have never let you come with us. They should have said, no, you got to go with your mom, even if your mom left it a little bit later." I said, "No." He said, "I'm not, because now I'm a witness."
All right, now, you said something earlier. You said that they had used lethal rounds in the shooting.
Yes.
Do you have any knowledge as to, what the caliber of the round was, or anything else?
I have no idea. I just, during the shooting, we just knew there was glass shattering, bullets flying everywhere, and then I know that it was the metal bullet that was in Brian's arm.
And do you know you said there were laser pointers pointed?
Yes.
You saw red lights. And
yes.
when these bullets were coming into the vehicle, did you continue to see the laser lights?
We did. We saw a lot of red lasers, and it was terrifying to us, because we're like one would get on our knees or on our arm, and Shauna would be like, she was watching me, and she was like, "You have a laser on," and Brian went on his head, and I was like, "Move your head away." And we were just trying to stay alive. I have no idea, honestly, how we didn't die. But there were red lasers still, a lot of red lasers when they were shooting the vehicle after the boy was dead.
And then was there crossfire? I mean, were all the bullets coming from behind, or was stuff coming from the sides too?
Most of the bullets, or it sounded like they were coming from the left and behind, just the left and just behind us. From the right, we had some fire, but they could have been using less than lethal, possibly from the right, because something kept hitting. I think it was a bullet kept hitting the right window, right where the B post was. They kept hitting the corner of the window and the B post, but it wasn't shattering the window. It just was like it would hit it and bounce off.
So it might have been a rubber bullet or something.
Yeah, it could have been a rubber bullet, but everything that was coming from behind the left, everything, all those bullets, which was most of the force that was coming at the vehicle, was shattering glass and coming into the vehicle, and from the front as well.
Now, when the shooting took place, were the first shots fired at Mr. Finicum?
They came from the back and the front. When we first hit that snowbank, the bullets came from the back and the front and the sides. It just completely surrounded the vehicle.
So you were under gunfire before Mr. Finicum got out of the vehicle?
Yes. When we first hit the snowbank is when the bullets first started ringing out, and I know that they came from the front, especially because when I was hunkered down, I could see bullet holes. After when LaVoy got out, I could see bullet holes in the windshield. And so I know that they had shot through the windshield, and we heard them when we hit hit that snowbank, and a lot of bullets rang out right then. When we were sliding through the snow, there were a lot of bullets hitting the vehicle from the front and the back.
Steve, I would just jump in that Ghost is a military man and is well practiced in ambushes and has constructed a airtight case that is exactly how military-style ambushes are conducted, letter by letter of military protocol and procedure. But you can have Ghost come in anytime you want. I don't want to interrupt your flow, but I wanted to say the ambush is very significant. And the other thing that is significant that's important to say is, hearing all of these facts from Victoria, what would you say to a jury or to a judge to, one, dismiss all charges against these men, and two, what is an opening and closing statement based on all these facts that would persuade a jury that this is the most abominable, obscene corruption of justice and attempted murder that you've ever encountered in your entire history of practicing?
Well, I'm the one that gets to do the argument, Scott. If I'm the one giving the argument, I like to couch my own words. I would say what I'm interested in hearing, this is a very interesting fact statement that Victoria is giving here. Okay, it's a very interesting fact statement. And of course, as we talked about before, I'm kind of interested in exploring what exactly happened on a factual level, because there's a couple of critical factors here. One is, when did the shooting begin? That's a very important factor. And then, when Lavoie got up, when he was shot, was there gunfire that was fired into the vehicle after that?
Well, to clarify one thing, the FBI did admit that when Lavoie and that vehicle hit the snow, that the FBI did engage in lethal force. So as that vehicle went into that snowbank on the left, the FBI engaged in lethal force.
Okay, so at that point, that's their official position.
Exactly. That's what he said on the TV interview.
Okay, all right. But the next question is, you have Lavoie coming out, and according to Victoria, is that he said, "Shoot me. If you're going to shoot somebody, shoot me." Is that correct, Victoria?
Yes, he was saying, if you're going to shoot, then just shoot me.
Okay, and now, then, did you see him fall? You did. Okay. Then after he fell, were there gunshots fired into the vehicle?
Yes. After Lavoie fell, after he fell, they shot him again. And then, as I was screaming, maybe 10 seconds after they initially shot him and he went down, I started screaming that I was an EMT, please let me out, let me help him. And right as I was screaming that, then they began to shoot at the vehicle.
Okay. All right. Well, like I say, it's an interesting set of facts. Now, again, there are other circumstances that I think there's still more factual data that has to be gathered here. So from a legal point of view, I'm not going to say anything here, Scott, because all I can do is, right now Victoria has come forward and has given a statement here, a factual statement on the record that is extremely substantial and I think a very important factual statement for all parties involved. Okay, and I wanted to explore some of the ramifications of that factual statement so that we can get some timing issues, because of course timing is going to be very critical in terms of what's going to happen. And I can tell you that I think Victoria, and I think everybody who has viewed these kinds of things has seen that Facebook posts, videos made by embedded journalists, emails that are exchanged, the text messages that it sent, all of those things become admissible and will in fact be presented. It's one of the things about Facebook is that the data is readily accessible under Facebook privacy rules. It's readily accessible and it's often used at trial. And
right.
So the thing is that I think your testimony is very, very good. I do thank God that you survived this thing, and you have to keep in mind that these were very difficult circumstances. Now let me ask you one other thing, and I hate to put you on the spot, but I think a lot of people want to know.
Okay.
Lavoy, now you were sitting in the back seat, or were you sitting in the front?
I was sitting in the back.
Okay. Now, was Lavoy at that time armed?
Yes, he had a six, I believe it was a six-shooter. It was strapped to his right hip in a holster.
Do you know what kind of six-shooter it was?
I don't. I didn't ask him to make or anything. I just noticed it when we were sitting. But I saw him.
And, you know, did he have, were you able to see whether or not he had a leather tong over the hammer of the six gun?
Yes, he did.
He did have a leather tong over that. Okay, which would be that's kind of a common safety practice for, you know, particularly cowboys in the field, right? All right, and then, and so when he got out of the vehicle, did he make any move to draw that six gun?
No, he had his hands in the air. He had his hands up.
Okay, and you didn't see him make a move to draw that weapon at all?
No, he did not.
And did he make any statement such as, oh, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to kill you, you know, or drop the F-bomb or anything like that?
He did not. Lavoy, simply, when he got out, he had his hands up. And I believe at this point that he was wounded because, again, they found blood right at the door where he got out. And they had shot through the windshield at him. So I believe that he was wounded, and he had his hands in the air and started walking back toward them. And he started to say, if you're going to shoot, just shoot me. And he kept saying that over and over, and he was shouting it. If you're going to shoot, then just shoot me. And I honestly believe that he was trying to take the focus. He was trying to keep us safe who were in the vehicle. He was trying to draw any attention away from the vehicle because they were firing at us. He was trying to take any attention away from the vehicle and keep it on him. He said, if you're going to shoot, then just shoot me.
Okay, and then to your knowledge, do you know whether or not he had any other firearm? Did he have like a boot handgun or a gun stuffed in his waistband that, other than the one they had on his hip?
I did not see any other firearm on him.
Okay. And were other people in the vehicle carrying firearms?
Ryan Payne had a pistol on his side, strapped to his hip, but I don't, and I know Shauna didn't, I didn't. I don't know if Ryan Bundy did or not. I can't remember.
Okay, and then Brian, was he to your right?
Ryan Bundy?
No, Brian Payne, I think you said his name was?
Ryan Payne was sitting in the right front seat, but he got out at the first stop.
Okay, so then it was just Lavoy and Shauna in the front seat?
No.
Who else was in the front seat?
So Lavoy was driving, and Ryan Payne was in the right front seat, and he got out at the first stop. Ryan Bundy was in the left back seat, and Shauna Cox was in the right back seat.
And you were in the middle?
Yes, I was in the middle of the back.
And there was nobody else in the vehicle?
No one else was in the vehicle.
Okay, and so to your knowledge, the four remaining people were unarmed in the vehicle?
To my knowledge, Lavoy had a six-shooter on his right hip, and I know Shauna Cox did not have a weapon, or did not have a gun, and I did not have a gun or any weapon, and I believe that Ryan Payne was unarmed. I mean, Ryan Bundy was unarmed, but I am not absolutely 100% sure.
Okay.
I didn't look.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you for your presentation. And you know, again, I mean, I'm going to reserve my position on this, Scott. But I'm going to say this. I'll say this. This particular event has an extreme amount of significance because there are multiple issues involved. Okay, multiple issues involved. And one of those issues, if we had Chris Ann Hall here with us, I think she would probably concur. There are constitutional issues. And one of the major issues is, of course, this issue of self-defense. And self-defense is a very interesting issue because we litigated this before in other cases. Because self-defense is the self of yourself or someone else whose life is in jeopardy or property. Now, depending on where you are, you know, in Texas, they have, you know, you can shoot at the guys in the front lawn. Here in Washington, he has to come through the front door. have somebody who's attacking you. But in terms of the defense of property, one of the issues is a constitutional right a property interest that can be defended? Now, the signers of the Declaration of Independence would say most assuredly so, because the Declaration provided, and of course the Declaration has a lot to say on this particular issue concerning the rise of tyranny and so on and so forth. Here in the western states, we have very difficult issues because the Fed has reached out and grabbed property as an occupier, really. And when you see the taking of property as an occupier, I mean, this sagebrush rebellion has been going on for as long as I can remember. And of course, I grew up in the state of Alaska where the Fed controls 90% of the state. 90%, 2.5 times the size of the state of California, is controlled by the federal government. And Utah has a similar disposition, Nevada has a similar disposition. And of course, the Constitution allows the federal government to own forts, roads, armories, postal roads, and naval shipyards. And when it comes to taking that property from the state, they have to get permission from the state. Yet, the Fed controls, by means of contractual understanding, all of these acreages in the western states. So, the problem becomes when you have the BLM acting out of school, acting out of hand, setting random fires, and so on and so forth. And there's been other practices. I've seen stuff. We had a situation in Alaska where it was the federal park people detonated a building. I mean, they couldn't wait. I mean, you couldn't go out there with a car, go leave a footprint anywhere, but they could use dynamite to destroy a 100-year-old historic log cabin and blow it to smithereens, right? And so you see, and it's a traditional fact and a well-known fact that if you really want environmental damage, let the government own the property. I mean, look at what the Soviet Union did. The Mayak River is completely radioactive. Chernobyl comes to mind. The city of Archangel on the Arctic coast, they just left their nuclear ships with their reactors intact to rot in the bay. So, I mean, you can see some and how about the Aral Sea? It doesn't exist anymore. It used to be the largest freshwater lake in the world. It doesn't exist anymore in Russia because of the environmental abuses you get when government controls the property. However, with all that being said, the issue of property rights and how those break down and how that reflects on what took place here in Burns, Oregon, is another issue. And how that reflects on how this case is going to play out is another issue as well. All I can tell you is that this is a very complex matter, and there's also a question of the initiation of force, self-defense. There's a whole ton of issues here that go into this case. And so I don't want to pass judgment on it now, but I am praising God that you're alive and that the other people in that truck survived it. It grieves me that Lavoie lost his life over this protest. And don't we wish we could push this genie back in the bottle? But it has happened. And so now we look forward and say, okay, how is this going to go from here? If you recall, there was a fellow who revolted against slavery in the state of Kansas prior to the Civil War, Mr. John Brown. Now his picture is painted on the Capitol wall, and he died in the process. And of course, Kansas ended up becoming a Union state in order to bring to an end this condition of slavery. And so maybe Lavoie Finicum's life will not be a life that is wasted, but a life that was given blood on the soil to restore the soil in the western states to their rightful owners, which is really the individual states and not the federal government.
Well, I'll tell you, it is. I very much appreciate it, Stephen, that you give such an excellent analysis in the legal mind that you have. It's brilliant. Of course, I have my favorite niece on my knee listening in to this discussion, and this lady up here is a hero that every American woman should follow. And she is going to take your story, Victoria, to her current events class in school, and she is going to present it. And she is going to tell all the kids and her teacher, here's what happened in Oregon, and here's what it means to us as patriots and citizens of the United States. And
Wow.
every American citizen should have their daughters and sons and nieces and nephews watching this program, watching this link, and taking this to their school and talking about this. Because we are not going to raise up a generation of cowards and weaklings and retards. We are generating a population of the future with leaders and heroes. And Victoria, you are a role model for this little future Mockingjay warrior. And I know to all of the rest of this population. So, Stephen, that's a brilliant analysis. And one of the other things that hit me was they fired bullets at this car at the beginning of the first roadblock. So they took off to protect their property and their lives. And they didn't have a warrant. They had no reason to stop them. But you're right. All of this needs to be legally presented in the right way and at the right time so the bad guys can't defend. One other thing that Ghost has informed me about that he can inform us more was Shauna's brother-in-law. Was it brother-in-law or brother who was killed in a? Do you want to talk about that, Ghost? The killing, because it adds another dimension to this that should be part of the trial in the course of the legal system.
Yeah, I agree. When Sean was released from prison, they put her on from jail. They put an ankle monitor on her. They called her husband, and they said that she could not have guns in the house. So he complied. They took the weapons over to their daughter or their son-in-law's house. They put them in the barn. It was either that evening or the next day that barn caught on fire and burned the barn down and all the weapons and killed her son-in-law inside. We can run conspiracy theories, but we've got to wait for the investigation to find out how that started, and if it was accidental or was arson. But it brings up a question.
It certainly does. It certainly does bring up a question that this needs to be expanded. And of course, the other thing to mention to Stephen is that the entire scene was sanitized. The entire scene where this event took place, where the truck was stopped in the snowbank, where there would have been blood, there would have been bullets, there would have been trajectory of the bullets where they were fired, there would have been footprints, there would have been all sorts of evidence that should have been examined by the state of Oregon. And in fact, that's another justification to say this was a complete fiasco and all of the criminal investigation was mishandled. But talk about the sterilization of that scene that happened. What should they have found and what did they do?
Well, the sterilization of the scene is really inordinate. I mean, they really have a duty to maintain the scene. In particular, you see it quite often in police work. They'll fence it off, right? They'll fence off the area and retain the site of what occurred so that photographs can be taken, forensic audits can be done, all of those things, right? To come in and clean the scene, I don't know what F.B.I. protocols are, but if you recall, we saw a similar scene in Waco, and where the whole facility was bladed, and there 53 women and children were hunkered down in the school bus underground, and CS gas was dropped down in their air vents, which is prohibited, by the way, under the Geneva Convention. And they were killed in the bus, and then, of course, the whole thing was bladed. And so there could be no forensic audit. And, of course, who has the responsibility at this point to do the forensic audit? I mean, that's the question. And the answer is really the state authorities are the ones that have the duty to do the audit. The state authorities, probably the state police, would be the ones, or the county sheriff, would be the ones that would be equipped to go out and do the audit of the area and take forensic data. And that would include, shell casings, tire prints, trajectories of the bullets, the vehicle that had been shot. All of those things needed to be photographed, retained, and all of that. And then, of course, the evidence there has to be a chain of evidence that's associated with it. There has to be a controlling of the evidence. And, unless that's in place, then you have a corrupted scene. You have a corrupted scene of the event, and seriously corrupted. And so those kinds of problems are significant because, of course, once the scene has been cleansed, the defendants have no capability of proving, so many of the forensic aspects of what actually occurred. And so it's a big problem. You know, and we had the same thing happen in Oklahoma City, where there was questions about whether or not there were 2 detonations that took place in Oklahoma City. And as soon as it came out that the rebar was blown outward from the building, well, then the building was destroyed. And everybody recalls those events. And so what you see is this idea of cleansing the site to allow the prosecution to control the story. It allows the prosecution to control the storyline, and by doing so, by controlling the storyline, they can ensure a conviction. But what takes place is that the government has the duty to maintain exculpatory evidence. Any evidence that is capable of exonerating a defendant is exculpatory, and there's long-standing legal precedent that exculpatory evidence has to be maintained and it has to be provided. And so to willfully destroy the scene of the event is very interesting. And it also probably is equal to, let me put it this way. There's federal laws that say in the course of an investigation, if you tamper with evidence, you're committing a crime. Now, what we see so much now in the criminal justice system is we see misfeasance, malfeasance, and non-feasance, where some crimes are prosecuted and other crimes aren't. I was doing a federal trial. In the middle of the trial, we had an action against a local police department, and it depended upon a prior case that had taken place in a local court. During the pendency of the trial, the court clerk destroyed the entire file at the state level. And if it had been me, if I had destroyed somebody's complete file, I'd be in jail. And so you have there's one law for us outside the system, and there's another law for those inside the system. And that and this is where the real destruction comes. I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to shut up. But here's where you see a real destruction in American jurisprudence. The 14th Amendment is designed to provide for equal protection of the laws and to provide that inside of the states. The Fifth Amendment, it provides for equal protection of the laws in regard to the federal government. But either way, you have equal protection, which is constitutionally protected. We don't have a right to equal results, but we have a right to equal protection under the law. As used to be said when I was a kid, no man and no woman is above the law. But you can see that disposition is completely gone in the United States right now, where somebody like Hillary Clinton can commit felony on felony on felony on felony on felony. They know that just having an email server outside of the federal government for her federal use is a felony. Accepting gifts from foreign powers while she's holding a federal position is a felony. Maintaining top secret emails on an outside server is espionage. I mean, these things are, these are dramatic, and each one of the 1,800 emails that we know about constitutes a serious felony under federal law. No indictment, no charges. Mr. Obama can commit open treason. He can usurp the office. I mean, the list goes. The North American Law Center has brought 48 charges against him for violations of federal law, like mispersonation, which is a felony that can land him in prison for 18 years. No charges. Nobody sees anything. But as soon as somebody stands up and says, hey, I was maintaining my property against a BLM burn that was where they were trying to burn my house down. Well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go to prison for 5 years. And, so when you see that kind of, this is what you call selective enforcement. And selective enforcement is malfeasance, misfeasance, non-feasance. And so, the fact that as it goes on, you see one set of law, you see the same law applied strictly in strict construction against the citizen and completely ignored against the person holding the authority. And that's what the difficulty is here.
And, the other thing I wanted to bring in, Kathy Rubio had some good intel I wanted to share with you, Victoria and Ghost, because it'll help splice and supplement what you know already and give you new material perhaps you don't. So, Kathy, I'd love it for you to give us your briefing on Mr. F.B.I. and what are the current operations that are going on up there that you've reported that Ghost and Victoria
First of all, I started talking with David F.B.I. this afternoon. First I talked to his friend, and then his friend called me back, and he put us on a three-way conversation. And I could clearly hear in voices, I talked to them all, that they are scared. their time is very limited now. And while I was talking to them, I got a message from Watchman News that they are ramping things up in Burns. FBI has taken over the second floor of the hospital again. They are bringing in more equipment. They are bringing in more MRAPs. They're bringing in more military. They're gearing up. And when they did this last time, it took them 2 days before this, with that blockade. So I'm thinking we might want a lot of militia out there by Friday during the funeral. I'm thinking they're going to hit then. The other thing is, when talking to David, they were so scared that I spent most of the conversation, and you have that conversation there. You can play it whenever you want. I spent most of the conversation praying with them to calm them down, because they needed to hear from someone that knew Jesus and that could speak to them. And they were very grateful for that motherly care, I would say that was. And we did lay down some heavy prayer. Michael, you would be proud. And so I believe that God is in control. I believe that God has used these kids mightily. That He's used Victoria. I believe that He used LaVoy. And God has used this whole situation to wake this nation up. And so for that, I'm grateful to all of you that you could stand the test. And Victoria, I know you're standing strong. He told me today, David Fry did, that please come and get him out. And soon, he said, he knows he doesn't have time. He had told me before we started the conversation that the FBI had told him if he made one more phone call after the interview the other night, they would cut his communications off. That was done while we were talking. So he no longer will be allowed to communicate with anybody else.
Well, hold on. Let's jump in on there, because if he is not being charged with something, if he is not being suspected of a crime, then they've just suddenly interfered with his constitutional rights. They've just suddenly violated his rights.
Is that a surprise, Scott?
Yeah, well, it's illegal, and that's the only thing that matters. And that's the important thing to begin to do, is to construct a timeline and a listing of violations and incidents of criminal activity, criminal actions against these people, that aren't suspected of a crime. And also, we need to document, as I said before, if there are FBI agents or mercenaries or contractors who are dressing up as militia or just trying to pretend they're civilians and taunting or antagonizing or abusing or in any way suffering the people of Harney County to be under the false impression that these men are militia members or protesters or part of the Oregon group that are at the wildlife preserve, then that needs to be documented. As far as I know, the fire chief resigned when he approached Judge Grasty and said there's some funny business going on for people pretending they're militia. And Judge Grasty demonstrated that he told the fire chief to stand down, and the fire chief resigned. So we need to keep a documented record of everything that's done against these people, and that's a prime example. Now, Mr. Bundy's father, and Ghost, perhaps you can jump in on this. Mr. Bundy's father has said and filed a letter and did it on a registered mailing that they were not going to abandon the facility. They are occupying it. They are there. It doesn't sound like they are occupying it with guns drawn, looking to shoot with defensive force. They're just occupying the facility like anybody would at a big picnic for the 4th of July. They're there. And Mr. Bundy is saying, we're not leaving. Now, Ghost, can you come in and corroborate any of that, or what's going on that Kathy's just said that you want to chime in on?
I would like to chime in. I just spoke to Carol Bundy yesterday, and I asked her about this, and Kathy, I really appreciate what you just said, that you spoke to them. I've been trying to find a way to get a hold of them, and I now understand that if they spoke one more time, they would have their communications cut off. You know, as Scott said, we need to document. But I think not only do we need to document what is going on, but we need to do something. This is life that is weighing in the balance. People may lose their lives. The FBI goes in there. Way lost his life. He was not showing aggression and he lost his life. And I think we need to do something.
Well, the whole Facebook posted all over the net in a short amount of time as soon as I get off this show. And once that's posted, the militia should pick up easily on what's going on here. And I especially would want to say to the militia in Texas that said the other night to David that they had 2,500 ready to go, because we need to get them out. And obviously they're gearing up for something. If Ghost is saying that they closed down the F.B.I. in Redding, California, they are gearing up, and they know that the people are going to rise up over this.
Well, here's a thought for operational purposes, Ghost. Besides militia, okay, this is not an armed militia movement at all. This is a patriotic American citizen movement, and Americans need to go up without guns, with flowers, if you will, to put in the guns, but they need to go up and align themselves and go up there as human shields, if you will,
yeah.
To serve as, no, you're not going to just slaughter these people like Waco. We need old people, young people, and civilians to go up and say, no, you will not kill these people, and be the shields for them. Hold on, it's not militia. So yes, militia are very important. Veterans are very important. Former military are very important. They've got the training, they've got the testosterone, they've got the willpower to be former military men. Once you swore an oath, you've always got that oath. And you are always upholding and defending this country. So militiamen, yes, they need to get up there. Civilians need to get up there. And here's the key.
See, I'm under the impression that the people are the militia.
Hold on, Kathy. Let me finish.
All right.
Fact is this. These people need to go up to a different refuge in Grant County that the sheriff is on their side and say, get out of that Harney County and come up here to Grant County. I will go up and make sure no federal forces are up here, and we're going to occupy the area and let these people, like the British who left that fort in the scene last of the Mohicans, simply travel up there and relocate and base their operations there. That may be a viable alternative. You still win the victory. You are not leaving on their condition, you're leaving on your condition. That would just be my ad. Ghost, what do you think on that?
Those people want out. You do know that they need to get out, but they can't get out because they know that if they come out, the FBI will take them. At least they'll take Sean.
And that's exactly what you're saying. When we got into the conversation, that's why I wish we could play a conversation. We talked about that they have to come with guns, come with them, nothing in the chambers. And they said too that they want lots of cameras, lots of live stream, lots of things that can get this out everywhere so that it is completely recorded what goes on when the people go in. I said it was better that, I don't know a militia that would go in on I don't,
Okay.
and I of course am under the impression that we the people are the militia. I didn't know that it was only military.
No, you're right. Go ahead. Give us your debrief.
What we need to look at is the term people are using militia. That has the connotation of, remember the old, what was it, the Minnesota militia, where people running around, with guns and camouflage. That's not what was up there. What was up there was a political movement. They had sidearms, and they were trying to get the political side taken care of. They were supporting people at the refuge. Okay, it wasn't walking around with you know, M4s and military weapons all over town. People were trying to do it in a political manner and with rightful protest. Now, what the FBI has now is they've got a 6.5 mile buffer zone blocked off between the road and the refuge. They want to do this in a peaceful manner. What they need to do is put a few of their agents up there with media, okay, and say to those people, okay, it's time to come out. Okay, so they feel safe and they don't feel like they're going to be attacked. It's on the media that they came out, and I would almost guarantee you that those people would leave in that manner. But they won't do that. They've got that buffer zone set up. They've got the Bearcats up there and the MRAPs, and they're ready to go in and they're ready to start shooting when there's no need to do that.
And that's exactly why the political people, the Congress, the Widens, the senators, all of them need to be called, and those phone calls Skyped so they're recorded, and citizens saying, Senator Wyden, Senator so-and-so, Congressman so-and-so, you need to drive down there and help get these people out. You need to go onto that refuge and escort those people out. You need to drive your car and help them leave, because otherwise they're going to get shot at like these other people were shot at, and their blood's going to be on your head. You're a politician for a reason, not to stand there behind your Marble Hall fountain in Washington, but to get your butt down there to Harney County Malheur Refuge and help get those people out. Now, any other law enforcement that is in Grant County or other counties, take the day off, take the week off, take some time and go up to that refuge and escort those people out. Let's get much more blocks and shields up for those people. With everybody saying, I'm a police officer, I'm going to this refuge, and I'm going to take out some of these people to save passage. And I'm going to do it under the cover of a police escort. It doesn't have to be necessarily be in a state car, but the Brotherhood of Fraternal Order of Police should be participating in that, so that you don't have police officers killed by mercenaries and FBI agents who are purposely trying to spark a firefight. They're trying to spark a bloodshed.
I agree with that, Scott. I think that, how do you put it? It's like Brandon Curtis said, and the citizen of Idaho believes that the Oregon State Police are the fall guys. They need to stand up and tell the FBI, you're going to stand down. We're here to serve and protect these people. We're going to protect these people in the refuge. We're going to get them out of there. You stand back. We're going to take care of it. I think that, you know, just talking to those people there that were in town, Oregon State Police, they're very concerned on what's going on, and I believe they have a heart for people. So if they were given that chance also, I believe that they could go in there and they could bring them out.
Okay, Michael J., I would like to hear some of your thoughts as a former military Army guy and giving some advice and help to Ghost and Victoria. What are your thoughts on moving forward to resolve this, and any other thoughts you have? Go ahead, Mike.
Scott, if he's having...
Sorry, go ahead, Mike, try again.
Okay, very good. What I see happening here is that many people are being encouraged because this is something that's spreading across America. People are becoming more and more aware of what's going on. It seems like the federal government is doing a panic thing by increasing their militarization. They're going so far overboard, about this, supposed danger, when everybody that's really they're making a difference. They're only making a difference because they're telling the truth. They experienced the Chris Ann Hall effect about suddenly understanding they have legitimate constitutional authority to say, no, you can't be here. And the people like Mr. Wyden, who wants to call the freedom movement, the liberty movement, the protesting, the tyranny, they want to call this an infection. This is because these people are panicking because they've been in positions where they've been confiscating millions and millions of acres of land that doesn't belong to them, and what you're dealing with is a criminal cabal. And so this little incident, so-called, something they thought that they could contain is getting out of control.
Hold on, Mike. Hold on, stand by. I just want to make sure we got the technical capabilities running. Brian, Mike is broadcasting through Skype, but is he also broadcasting on the Google Hangouts? Is he operational now up on that?
We're getting audio from Mike. I'm not sure if it's coming from his microphone or your Skype feed.
Okay, let's do a quick test. Mike, go ahead and talk, and I'm going to mute your Skype mic just to see if you're coming through on Google Hangouts. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't believe I will, but okay. I'm continuing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, stop there. Stop there. Did you hear that, Brian?
Yeah, it's good to go. Check the chat.
Okay, Mike, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, Victoria, if you can hear him.
Okay, this is a test again. Victoria, I'm so grateful for what you are sharing. It's so easy to experience what's coming from your heart. This, you're a